Welcome to all on Women Dialogues. And I'm your host Shashi with you all to create more voice for women and by women. And today's our guest, Amy Bloomer. She's the organizer, and as we are saying organizer, so she started organizing as soon as she could walk, sorting her toys chest by size, color, functions, and all these skills from childhood, how she bring in her career, how she become a successful entrepreneur, we will hear from her side. So let's welcome Amy on this platform and hear from her side what she has for us to inspire and motivate. So welcome Amy on this platform.
Thank you so much.
So, Amy, as we are seeing your introduction, we are knowing that you are an organizer. You does a lot of your business and your work in that. But in your childhood memory, as we can see that from very early age, you had that innate feeling. Please tell us, take us from your early life journey, and then connect how it helped you to become what you are today.
Sure, absolutely. So it's funny, I know in my biography on my website, I talk about how this ability to organize, which is a skill anybody can learn, was innate for me. And
Mhm.
so when I was a toddler, I wanted to organize everything by size and color, and I liked it that way. And if anyone tried to move it, I got very upset. And it worked really well until I had a little brother who wanted to get into my things. And so,
Right.
my mom, after having him and kind of seeing how he didn't share that trait. And so she thought, oh my gosh, I think there must be something pathological going on. So she took me and a bunch of my toys to a child psychologist and explained what was going on. And, she dumped out my toys and I did my thing. And she said, what is going on with this child? And the psychologist said, I think that your daughter is just going to be very organized. And so that was essentially what was going on. And I think it has really helped me throughout my
Right.
life to
Wow.
have that kind of a mindset.
Mhm.
And so I definitely always had a place for everything and everything had its place. And so I became very efficient at using my time for what I wanted to be doing instead of using
Mhm.
my time, looking for things that I had lost or, that I couldn't find. So it was, I think it initially really was alarming to my parents that at such a young age, I had such a command over my home environment, but it
Right.
was really something that brought me a lot of peace and calm because
Yeah,
there's so
absolutely. I think it's a remarkable, step, or I can say it's a one of very sound attainment of such young age because it's very helpful for anyone who has such kind of important skill to organize and remember. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, please.
absolutely. And I think it was something that I just assumed everybody could do. And as I, went on in life, I discovered that that wasn't necessarily the case and that it was a true skill and a gift to be able to do this. And I'll tell you a funny story about my childhood. There was a little girl who lived down the street from me, but I didn't know her because I went to a public school and she went to a private school. And one summer in elementary school, we wound up being at a theater community camp together, and she played a lamp, literally, with a lampshade on her head. And I happened to be a preacher in this play, and we stood next to each other and discovered that we lived one, door down from one another. And so she was a bit of a hot mess. And what I didn't know until later in life is that she really didn't like me that much initially, but whenever her mother told her to clean her room, she would ask for a play date with me. And I would come over and I would help organize her room. And through that, getting to know me, she discovered, hey, I really like this girl. And she wound up becoming my longest best friend, and she was the maid of honor in my wedding. So organizing has also helped me to form relationships with people early on, which I think is, pretty compelling. And the other, I think, part of my childhood that I think really kind of positioned me for success in what I do now is that my father was a musician, but he was also a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to flight school when we were in elementary school. So it was a little bit later, it was a second career for him. And so he had to attain flight hours in order to
Yeah.
get enough status to become, the pilot instead of the co-pilot. And so I spent a lot of my elementary school years on the weekends in my dad's little turboprop twin Comanche airplane, which was not, pressurized. So we always had to watch the weather, but kind of looking at life from 10,000 feet. And it was very peaceful and interesting to have that perspective. And I know when I had a particularly difficult day in school, whether, somebody was making fun of me or just not being very nice, and it was always such a relief to be able to climb into that airplane and go to 10,000 feet and totally shift how I saw my world and who was in
Yeah.
it. And so I think that really gave me an incredible perspective, and a coping mechanism to be able to kind of, get yourself away from the immediate thing that is so stressful and just get away from it and get some perspective. And I think that that's so incredibly important in what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say between the organizing throughout my childhood, the exposure, being my dad's co-pilot for many years, it really set me up for success. I was able to engage in many different activities throughout middle school and high school. I was involved in dance and theater and National Honor Society and a myriad of sports. And it was all because I was able to organize my time
Right.
effectively.
Yeah.
And so I wound up going to college, and then I went to graduate school, and I got a master's degree in organizational psychology from Columbia University, which
Wonderful.
has nothing to do with organizing a house, but it has so much to do with how people behave in groups under
Yeah.
different um, management styles and compensation structures. And so the interesting linkage there is that when I'm working under a home, there's generally a family involved, even if it's, the family means a person and their pet, or it's a blended family or extended family. And so those group dynamics that I learned a lot about in grad school oftentimes are applicable in a family setting as well.
Yeah.
So I went to work in the corporate world for almost 15 years, and it was wonderful. But then I fell in love and had kids, and the reality was that I needed to shift gears to something that gave me more flexibility. So I guess it was about 6 years ago, I decided that I didn't want to go into the corporate world again, even though I really liked it. It just didn't give me the
Mm-hmm.
flexibility that I needed with my children. And so, because I've been organizing my whole life, I thought, wow, this is great. I'll open my own business. But then there's this realization, well, you know a lot about big business and the corporate world, but you don't know a lot about opening your own business and running your own business, and it's quite
Right.
different,
Yeah.
quite scary. It's
Exactly.
just a completely different animal. And so the first thing I decided to do was, well, I'm going to go work for some other people first, because I like organizing for friends and family, but am I going to like showing up to a perfect stranger's home and
Hmm.
going in and organizing their stuff? Because it's a
Right.
completely different dynamic.
Right.
And so I worked as a contractor for a couple of years. And what I discovered was that I loved doing that. It was
Mm-hmm.
very easy to connect with people very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, because I went into this career for flexibility and to chart my own course, I didn't want to be managed by somebody else. I wanted to establish my own working hours, my own rates of pay, et cetera, et cetera. So 3 years ago, I decided to take the plunge and open my business. And
Wonderful.
It's been wonderful. I mean, it ebbs and flows like everything else in life, but because I truly feel like organizing is really kind of my passion and gift to the universe,
Right.
when all is said and done, it doesn't feel like work to me. So it's just so amazing that I'm able to do that. And I feel really blessed that I'm in a position that I have a husband who has, benefits. So I don't have to worry about that with my own job. And so it gives me the flexibility to have my own business and have essentially 100% commission job, right? Because
Mhm.
when you have your own business and it's a
Yes.
service you're selling, you don't have a salary, so you have to continue to go out and find that business, and it's incredibly challenging.
I think the way you shared your passion, how you turn your passion into your work, which is incredible. Uh, but where we would like to ask how you find your inner childhood passion as an organization or as an organizer versus organizational psychology, because you said you worked 15 years in corporates or in industries, whereas you are dealing more over psychologically the people's behavior, and you have passion for as an organizer to organize things. So did you find conflicting, or is like bringing more harmony in your work? Because many times as a you are a strong person who is organized, who is as a behave like a organizer, where is when you are organized behavior and people's psychology is, they might like their table is full of things and you are working, how you find these kind of behaviors?
It's so interesting. Um, and it is such an interesting contrast because I think that when people are in a work environment, you're not always seeing the best side of them. And they're
Yeah.
not always working in a job that is their passion in life. So they're not very
Yeah.
happy.
Right.
So it's it's been such an interesting transition to go from helping from you know focusing on behavior in a work environment to
Right.
behavior in a home environment. And I think it was a very natural transition for me to do
Mhm.
that. And I think from a personality standpoint, I am very much an introvert. And so while I could work in a corporate environment with lots of people and I could do it well, it's not my kind of natural uh, it's not what I gravitate towards naturally. I
Right.
really love being in conversation with people one on one. And when I'm organizing, that's what I'm doing. And I'm also seeing them in their home environment where they're most times are most comfortable being themselves.
Mhm.
And so it's such a privilege and an honor to be able to do that
Right.
because I feel like people are generally speaking in a much better mindset in their home environment than they are at work. I mean,
Yes,
that's
that's so true.
reality.
Yes, exactly. So when we are
So
talking about this home environment, currently as we are all are facing this global pandemic and people are got isolated, they are working from home more than this office culture, how you're finding, yeah, because as they are creating this new space in their home which they never focused on, which they never thought about, because everyone is busy in their life, they have to go to their office, reach their office, and they have their proper setting of their work environment, work culture, whereas now they're dealing all their work from home. How you're finding about this kind of, because as an organizer I believe it might be a new perspective for people to look towards to you or your work.
absolutely. So my business, I would say, like many small business in the beginning, was completely shut down, and it was
Right.
horrible, but it was
Yeah.
understandable given what was going on in the world. So I would say, probably since the summer, things have picked up, and I think people have realized that they've had to really reinvent the space that they're in. And if they're in a space that don't like, if they can't figure out how to make it work, it's a tremendous opportunity for a professional organizer to come in and help give them a new perspective and new ideas and ways to reinvent their space, because it's hard. I think one of the most difficult things in life is to kind of hold the mirror to yourself and take a look at what's happening. And so I think that most things in life are easier with a guide or a coach. And while, at the end of the day, I'm really empowering people to make decisions that are going to make them feel good in their space, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to live there. I don't. So I'm really just kind of facilitating and helping them through that process, and giving them a new perspective, and helping them to see themselves in the mirror and what's working and what's not working, and some potential changes that we can make to make life better.
Right. And when we are talking about your work, you're helping people in their organizing their area, their space, would you like to bring some successful stories from your work which you are doing?
Sure, absolutely. So I think even before I tell you a few stories, I think one of the things that's really important to what I do and why I do it and how I do it is my brand story. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about that, because I
Yeah.
think it's something that makes me unique in the industry, and I think it really resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So when I was figuring out how and when I was going to open my business, one of the biggest questions was, well, what's it going to be called? And, how am I going to do this? And, what is my brand story, right? So anyone that
Mm-hmm.
has a business, whether you're, a small dry cleaner in a local town, or, your Nike sneakers, you have a brand story. And I think, part of your brand is how people, they view you, how you attract consumers, etc. So one of the things that is really unique about my husband's family heritage is that he is a descendant of a woman named Amelia Bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
And she is known for being brave enough to wear these long kind of pantaloon type pants under her skirt in the 1850s.
Wow.
And so that's why those kind of undergarment pants got the name bloomers, because
Uh-huh.
Amelia Bloomer, who was brave enough to wear them.
Well,
And
interesting.
it's very interesting. And so she also was very pivotal in women's history in two ways. She introduced Elizabeth Cady Stanton to Susan B. Anthony, who are obviously two huge pioneers in women's suffrage. And in fact, there's a statue of the three of them outside of the Women's Hall of Fame in Seneca Falls, New York.
Mm-hmm.
She also owned and wrote for and edited the first newspaper by women for women in the United States in the 1850s, called the Lily News. And so my daughter's middle name is Lily, as a tribute and a nod to our heritage there. And so what was so interesting is, shortly after I started kind of thinking about these brand stories, I thought, well, I just feel this connection to Amelia. I think that it just so happened that she was a petite woman like me,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a pioneer for women's social reform and suffrage and a number of other things. And I'm really trying to empower and help create impactful change and empowerment for women in their space.
Right.
And so that's how my business name, Let Your Space Bloom, came to be, right? Because I really
Mm-hmm.
want people to flourish in their
Yes.
environment.
Right.
And I had a really wonderful, unexpected surprise before I even started a website, I started an Instagram account. And I thought, well, let me try this brand, right? Let me see
Mhm.
if people respond to this Let Your Space Bloom and this Amelia Bloomer story.
Mhm.
And sure enough, I got a message from an editor at the Washington Post, and she said,
Mhm.
hey, did you know that the Washington Post brought back the Lily News by way of an online newsletter in 2017? And I said, no. I said, I had no idea, and I don't think anyone in the family knows. And
Mhm.
so she asked if I would write an article to post there about our connection to Amelia and her impact on our lives and my business and our legacy going forward. And so
Mhm.
that was a tremendous opportunity and such a neat story of things just kind of coming full circle. And I felt like, yes, this is what I'm meant to be doing right now. And with that publication, I was able to get a lot of visibility and a lot of traction in my marketing, which was really wonderful.
Mhm.
So I think when people are trying to figure out who they're going to work with, if they do want to work with an organizer, I think them understanding my history, my heritage, and my brand story is really important in establishing credibility and trust for me to show up to their house and come in and start working with them, because
Right.
it's an business, right? You're a
Yes.
complete stranger.
Yes.
You're going to
And
someone's
you are, yeah,
home.
yeah, you are opening your personal space all of a sudden for a stranger. So it takes, as you said, bringing your legacy, bringing your those credibility and story, and those all attention gives people the trust which everyone, as a organizer or anyone who is entering in someone's house, need that, because it
Yeah.
makes comfortable for both of the parties, who is doing, who is getting, right?
Yes, absolutely. So having said that, I'll tell you two, I think, of my most favorite success stories. And I feel like I'm so lucky because I get to impact change and see the benefit of that so quickly in people's environments. And so it's just such a satisfying work product when clients will, say, you have changed my life. Things are so much easier. I can't believe that I, didn't do this years ago. The list goes on, and that just brings me so much satisfaction and happiness in what I'm doing. And so it's hard to pick two, but I would say the first one is I was working with um, I was working with a client who is 85, and she felt very strongly that she did not want her children and grandchildren to have the burden of taking all of her stuff, and it's stressful on everybody. And so I had been working with her, and we maybe had done 2 or 3 sessions. And so I was kind of helping her go through and identify things to hand down to her family versus donate and sell, etc. And she asked me if I could solve a very difficult problem that she was having with her husband, whom at this point I hadn't met. And he happens to be 97 years old.
Right.
And he is a very successful businessman. And at 97, he was still going into the office every day for a half day. And having said that, as he had gotten older, for whatever reason, the part of his brain that allowed him to put outfits together was just not working. And it was incredibly stressful because she had said to me, I just feel like he gets ready to go into the office and he just, he doesn't look put together. And it's just so sad because he's just such an incredible person and has this great career. So she said, we've worked with a wardrobe stylist, we've worked with, that she had a list of different people that they had tried, but, she said, do you have kind of an organizational solution to this problem? And I said, well, yeah, I think I do. And so what we did was we went in and we took pictures of all the outfits that looked really great together. And so she kind of helped me do that with his blessing. he was not willing to let her help him in the morning because he was very independent and wanted to do it himself. And I think that was the big change. And
Right.
it's such a simple thing, right? But it's like if you lost your ability to put together an outfit that looks nice and you feel good about,
Right.
it really impacts how you feel about yourself and how people perceive you.
Yeah.
So we put together these outfits and I took pictures and I blew them up to 8.5, 11 size. And each one had a number. And then I created a number in the closet so that everything was put there. So outfit number one was put in slot number one. Outfit number two was slot number two, et cetera, et cetera. And he could, if he wanted to pick out an outfit for himself, it was very easy. He would go into his wardrobe book, figure out, well, it's a nice day because we did it by season. I'm going to do this. And then he would come out feeling good about himself and good in the office. And his wife would, feel very happy about how he was looking. And
Right.
it just made him, feel so much better. And they each had a copy of this book because at 85, she actually still does a lot of traveling, which is
Right.
amazing. It's an amazing couple. And so if he was having a hard time and she was out of town, she had a copy of the book and he could call her up and say, what do you think I should wear? I've got this meeting with X, Y, and Z. And she would say, well, I think you should wear number 14. And he would say, okay. And he would see the
Oh,
picture
that's wonderful.
put on the outfit. And so it was interesting because his secretary at work took the time to call me and say, I can't tell you what an impact you've had on this man's life. We've been trying for the past several years to figure out some system for him, and we just couldn't. And he is just so much happier, and he is not experiencing the anxiety that he did every day. And it's just
Right.
been such a wonderful gift. So that was really fun. That was kind of an interesting organizational challenge
Yes,
that's not kind of your plain,
definitely.
I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a pantry so that people are, not wasting money. They're using what they have. They're not letting things expire because they know where to find it, kind of thing, which is wonderful too. But that was just kind of a unique organizational challenge that was really wonderful. And I think had I not been working with his wife in a capacity that most people think an organizer would work, helping her kind of downsize, I don't know that they ever would have thought, well, an organizer would be the person that can help us with this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah.
was really wonderful.
That, I think that's really cool, and as well as very effective story when we are talking about bringing your all organizational skill as well as your psychological factor, which how you made them convince and same time make them feel what they really are looking for. So listening to this story, really shows your work. It really shows your capacity. It shows your capability of managing all kind of spectrum when you are dealing with different level of clients and the work. So when we are talking about it, we are on this platform where our audience and especially I think women are listening and watching us. What tip would you like to give to them? Because as we know, we have a lot of things. We like to have our ornaments, our jewelry, our accessories, a part of dresses, and it's a lot. And it takes a lot of time, and I believe in the same way, like as you were sharing the story about anxiety, anxiousness, and each day I believe some sort of way women feel that when they are getting ready, if they don't get enough time and they don't get enough time to pay attention about their all these small things. So what advice can you give them?
Sure. So I think, especially when it comes to women, I think there's so much pressure to look a certain way or be a certain size. And I think that that is really difficult. And I think
Yes.
women really need to kind of own who they are in that moment and embrace it and really try to commit to using the stuff that you have because most people only wear 25% of what's in their closet.
Right.
Yet their closet is a space they go into every day. It's typically one of the main storage areas in a house. And so I think it's really important to try to get way higher than that 25%. I mean, ideally, you want to walk into your closet and have it filled with things that you wear, that you love. And it should be like shopping your best store ever. You can see what you have, the things there fit you, they're not in need of repair, they're not 5 sizes too big or too small. It really should be a pleasant experience so that you go in and you're using what you have. You're not rummaging through a million things that, used to fit you in high school, or, are things that you don't like anymore, or damaged or in need of repair. And that's just really stressful and a waste of your time when you're sifting through a bunch of stuff that you're not using. So I really think people need to kind of recommit to using what's in their space. And if you're not using it, then you need to figure out where it's going, whether it's being gifted to a friend, it's being sold, it's being donated, whatever. I think you will feel so much happier and so much more comfortable in your space when it's filled with things that you use and you love, not things that are just kind of taking up energy and taking up space that don't have a place in your life. And it sounds really simple, but I think it is really compelling. And so I think that's the first tip I have, is use the stuff you have. I think the second thing is, don't be afraid to leave yourself some, what I call room to bloom, right? I think people feel compelled that if there's an open space, they have to fill it. And I think that that is really telling the universe that your cup is already full. There's no opportunity for growth or for new things to come into your life. And so I think it's important to allow yourself that latitude. Leave yourself some empty, leave that space to bloom. And I think it will really bring, a lot of benefit and happiness, when you have that extra space to breathe. You don't have to fill every single nook and cranny. It's okay.
I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
For sure.
Because usually we have the, if we see this is the approach, like, okay, every kind of direction, every space should be well decorated, well occupied, and all those way. But when I'm hearing from you, I believe it's very important, and this is it gives the sense, as you said, that we have space in our life, in our all the way, whether we are talking about physical space or whether we are talking about mental space. So it's so important. It's really a very wonderful idea. I love that. So when we are talking about it, what way do you think our audience and viewers can get benefit by connecting with you or your work, and how they can connect?
Sure, absolutely. So I think the quickest way to connect with me is through Instagram, if you're on that social media platform. And my handle is let.your.space.bloom. And through there, you can connect to a whole myriad of different things that I'm doing. Of course, you can connect to my website, and you can connect to my Facebook and my Pinterest and all these things, because initially I think organizing is a very visual thing. Once you start peeling back the layers of the onion, it's much deeper than that. But initially, it is very visual. And so on my Instagram feed, I try to post things to inspire people in their space, not just only in their home space, but in their life space, and to kind of flood them with ideas and philosophies that will empower them to live the best life in their space. So I think that's the easiest way, is through my Instagram. There's also through that is a connection area, link to my email. So people are welcome to reach out to me via email with questions, or if they're interested in learning more about something that they haven't seen on my feed, I'm happy to do a post about that. So that's letyourspacebloom@gmail.com. And I think
Yeah, I think
while
other about your website, I will put in the description as well, and along with your all the social links, so people can connect with you. People can see or get inspired, even if they are looking some ideas. As as you said, you have a lot of visual pictures and all for on Instagram to inspire people, and if they are really looking some work or help, they can get connect as well. And say in a similar way, what way do you think, or what do you think about this platform is needed as well?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I'm talking about, like, as we are talking about, we need organizer, we need all those kind of things in our life. So similar way, last but not least, what way you feel the platform like this Women Dialogue is needed?
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Yes. So, I think that it's it's incredibly important for people to be comfortable and happy in their space, because I think that sets the platform for them to be successful in the rest of their lives. And I think women really need to continue to speak up and be comfortable to have a voice. And I think that it's changing, it's going in the right direction. And I think it's going to take time, but I think women need to keep coming out of their comfort zone and pushing and speaking out. And I think that's why I was so thrilled to see this podcast series that you've developed, because I think it's such an important thing to be giving women a voice, and for them to hear from one another and learn from one another and connect and understand that, there's a lot of similar struggles, and there's a lot of lessons that can be learned for one another, and that, you're not the only one who's struggling with these things, especially, when it comes to juggling a family and work and, all the craziness with the world we're living in with this pandemic. It gives women a sense of community, and I think that that's so important. And so I really feel like your space is your foundation to then go out into the world and speak your mission and your purpose.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for such empowering, such positive and inspiring words to give us positive feedback to continue our mission and purpose to inspire and motivate globally, not only our speaker, but to our all those silent voice who are hearing, who are watching and listening us, because I believe we all have our journey and we can inspire and motivate each other by sharing our experiences. So thank you so much, Amy, sharing your this blooming story. We wish you bloom more and more each day. And thank you once again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very grateful.
Thank you. And thanks to all our viewers. If you would like to hear more women voices and part of Women Dialogues, please connect with us. Please share, subscribe, like. Thank you. See you in the next episode. And as I mentioned about Emmy's links and description, those are available in the description as well. Please check and connect with the Emmy if you would like to get any support or any kind of advice. She's available on those links as well. See you in the next episode. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.